You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism.
We have to go to commercial. We'll come down. You're going to keep us around.
Requiring customers to order non-essential items through a counter or kiosk.
Running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party.
Tim Scott goes on The View and explains quote-unquote systemic racism. Walgreens opens up in Chicago, but there's a twist. Everything is behind quote-unquote bars. Cornell West has announced he's running for president, and the New York Times said that the COVID money that went to the schools didn't help at all. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go.
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Tuesday, June 6th, the year of our Lord 2023. I think this is the day, well, it doesn't matter. A lot of stuff to catch you up on. Tim Scott went on The View, as I'm a well-known Tim Scott fan. I don't know that he's going to win the presidency, but I'm a big fan of Tim Scott. Went on The View the other day, and we're going to play a lot of that for you. Also, Walgreens in Chicago is fascinating. I don't know if you know anything about Chicago, but Chicago is riddled with crime, and the stores and retailers are reacting accordingly. It's kind of fascinating. Also, I'm pretty sure we're going to get to it today. The New York Times came out with just a scathing. The New York Times. Now, in the comment section, do you know which side of the fence the New York Times tends to lean on? Yeah, it's the lefty side. They came out saying that the COVID money that went to schools really didn't help all that much and probably was just a power grab. But anyways, I want to start off with this. I will warn you, this is long, but I couldn't cut any part of it out. I couldn't do it. I was watching this whole thing, and Tim Scott, whether you like him or not, first things first, this whole idea of if a person is running for president that shares your ideas, but is not the candidate that you want to win, or is not a candidate that you feel is going to win, that means you then have to hate them, is ridiculous. So, at least from what I understand of this audience, everybody watching should like Tim Scott. Maybe you don't want him to be the president of the United States. Maybe you don't think he's going to win. But holy cow, this guy's good at just talking. Sunny Hostin, the co-host of The View, who lives in a very, very nice, lavish house. And I've said many times, if Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg are, quote-unquote, oppressed, where do I sign up? I would love to be oppressed. If that's what counts as oppressed, somebody get me to the oppressed level. But Sunny's making her claim to Tim Scott. I'll play it right here. She says that, well, she and Tim are the exception to the rule. And Tim so eloquently just lambasts that idea. This is long, I know. It's about 3 minutes, but it's all good. Maybe we'll jump in a couple times, but let me play this for you. If you haven't already, would really, really appreciate it if you click the little like button and the little share button. I think everybody in America needs to see what Tim has to say, just in general, but in this particular clip, as he goes into the lion's den of the cackling hens on The View and lays the smackdown. Watch this.
You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
Let me answer the question that you've answered.
Or does it even exist in your mind?
Let me answer the question this way. One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. I will tell you that if my life is the exception, I can't imagine.
But it is.
But it's not actually. It's been
114 years.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, we've had an African American president, African American vice president. We've had 2 African Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African American.
Still exceptions.
In 1975, there was about 15% employment in the African American community for the first time in the history of the country. It's under 5%.
40% homelessness.
And 50%
of African Americans.
50% of the folks in our community.
Get 13% of the population.
You had a chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you on the show that you like people to be deferential and respectful, so I'm going to do the same thing.
True.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest the fact of the matter is that progress in America is palpable. It can be measured in generations. I look back at the fact that my grandfather, born in 1921 in Sally, South Carolina, when he was on a sidewalk, a white person was coming, he had to step off and not make eye contact. That man believed then, with some doubt now, in the goodness of America, because he believed that having faith in God, faith in himself, and faith in what the future could hold for his kids would unleash opportunities in ways that you cannot imagine. Every kid today can look, just change the stations and see how much progress has been made in this country. ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, CNN, Fox News all have African American and Hispanic hosts. So what I'm suggesting is that the yesterday's exception is today's rule. And for us to
so
suggest...
America has met its promise.
No, of course, the concept of America is that we are going to become a more perfect union. That in fact, the challenges that we face 50 years ago and 60 years ago should not be the same challenges that we face today. And here's the way that you measure that. When my mother was born, about 10% of African Americans got a high school degree, diploma. Today, it's over 90%. When you look at the income, success that we've had.
That's an HBCU stat.
Well, listen, HBCU stat is a good one, because one of the reasons why I took the funding for HBCUs to the highest level in the history of the country, and then I helped make it permanent, is because I believe that education is the closest thing to magic in America. So I'm about making sure that our kids have as many opportunities to succeed as possible. It's one of the reasons why.
I need an opportunity to succeed because I have to go to break. They're begging. They're begging.
You're coming back.
I'm just getting started.
I know.
I believe all people can see the success that I've had.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's just good at that sort of stuff. I don't have to reframe or rephrase his arguments. But the guy is just talented when it comes to explaining things in a level that everybody can understand, while also trying to hold a conversation to an intellectual elite. I think Sunny has like a law degree from Harvard. She is smart. Now, there are... I know I'm going to get killed for saying Sunny Hostin is smart, but she is. Having said that, I think it's George Orwell, it could be H.L. Mencken, that said some ideas are so dumb that only an intellectual can believe them. I think Sunny Hostin falls in that category. But I thought it was fascinating that Tim went on that show. Now, there's some people over here saying in the comment section, well, there's this. D says, does anybody watch The View? I don't know. Mauricio says, The View, LOL, why does he even bother going on that leftist show? First things first, I actually, in some ways respect The View for having a person with a differing opinion on their show, and having someone as good as Tim Scott. Generally speaking, a lot of shows that have a particular bent will have someone dumb on their show. I've tried to avoid that. I don't really have anybody on the show anymore. But the idea of having somebody bad at representing the arguments of their side coming on your show is an easy win for people on their show. So in some ways, I respect you for not only having the guts to have somebody with the opposite view on their show, but also have somebody as good at articulating it on their show as possible. Like, they could have had I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here, but they could have had some bad people who are bad at representing our arguments on the show, but instead they had Tim Scott. So I'm all for people going into the Lion's Den. As you know, I've said, I don't know how recently I've mentioned this. AOC has a standing invitation to come on this show whenever she wants. I will record whenever she wants, and we will air the entire thing in its entirety on here. So if you know AOC, let her know that she's welcome on this show at any point in time. Yeah, so Tim's just dang good. Wow, a lot of people. You know what I also like in here? This is not at all related to this, but there's a lot of people that just here saying good morning. Jim Lavender says good morning. Hey, good morning, Jim. Who else is here? Jeff says good morning. Bunch of people saying good morning back to each other. Ryan says sup. Not exactly good morning, Ryan, but it's fine. But a lot of people in here just being nice to each other in the comment section. It's fun. I like it. Wally says, who is foolish enough to watch The View? Which, yes, correct. I don't actually, does anybody actually know anybody who watches The View apart from sitting in the dentist office waiting room, waiting to be taken back to have your mouth plundered with sharp instruments? No. So I thought this was kind of interesting too. Anytime he seemed to be on the roll. Now they did let him talk for a long time, so I won't say that. But he did complain a couple times of every time he was on a roll, they needed to go to a break. This is one of those clips too, where he was on the roll and decided. Well, The View was like, "Yeah, we need to go to a break." Watch this.
We will fulfill the notion that this is a nation that can become more perfect. And what I am concerned about
fixing the structures and the systemic racism that is embedded in
the fact of the matter is that we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree on the fact that your definition of systemic.
Go up and tell him. Yeah. Go tell him.
Tell him from the mountain.
We have to go to commercial. We'll come back. You're going to
you guys
stick around. You'll stick around.
I think y'all have commercial breaks whenever I get on.
We're going to come back.
Oh, that's kind of funny. And he plays it off very well. Like, I talk about this a lot, and not to delve into, like, politics and political strategy and stuff. Tim Scott is very good at the off-the-cuff thing. Trump is very, very good at the off-the-cuff thing. Trump, in a lot of ways, is more combative. Tim is kind of more playful with it. But people are either good at it or they aren't. Leave that there. But interesting that he went on there, and kind of a fun thing to watch. Now, I wanted to bring this up because I feel like this is an entirely new divergent topic here. But I thought this was fascinating. The New York Times came out with a piece, was it last week? Talking about COVID money. Did COVID money help at all? I will ask you that question again because I don't think it should be shocking. Did the COVID money that went to the schools make an actual dent when it comes to making up for learning loss during the COVID pandemic? The New York Times, a lefty organization or lefty news outlet, in other words, not a conservative small government restrict spending forum, said, yeah, didn't look like it helped much at all. This I thought was fascinating, especially coming from the New York Times. In 2021, the Biden administration gave districts another $120 billion that far surpassed previous rounds. Districts were required to, this is crazy, school districts were required to spend at least 20% of those funds on helping students recover academically, while the rest could be used for general efforts to respond to the pandemic. Hold it right there. Joe Biden gets into office, the pandemic is effectively over, and yet they still pass a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, of which $122 billion was going to schools. And of that $122 billion, only 1/5, 20% of it was supposed to go towards engaging students, helping students recover academically. What the heck is that garbage? Actually, it's the fact that education has become a massive voting bloc, and he's effectively bribing people to vote for him or vote for Democrats in the future. Hey, we're going going to give the schools $122 billion. Only 20% of it is supposed to go to actual academic stuff. And then the rest of it can be used towards general purposes. Let's see. Recent test scores underscore the staggering, this is again from the New York Times, staggering effort of the pandemic, which thrust the nation's students into remote learning for extended periods of time. Students in most states across all demographic groups experienced major setbacks. In 2021, math scores underwent the largest nation decline in recorded National Assessment of Education history. Not in history. Sampling of 4th graders through 8th graders dating back to the early 1990s. So it was terrible. This is where it gets interesting. Plans for relief funds have varied across the country. Some districts have invested more in extending learning time or offering incentive small group tutoring focused on math and English, which research shows have been powerful interventions. That's probably a good idea. Like, if you're going to spend money and you're going to have money go to the school districts from the federal government, I think it probably is best spent on tutors for math and English, especially considering the huge learning decline and academic decline that students faced during the pandemic. That's probably a good idea. However, that was only some school districts. Others have used much of their funds on facility upgrades, online tutoring services, across the board bonuses for employees, and other measures that education experts have argued were less effective in helping students catch up. Oh, you don't say. Everybody in the janitorial facilities department getting a $2,000 bonus at the end of the year didn't help students recover in reading and math? That's shocking. I am shocked. I have no idea how that could have happened. Yeah, that checks out. This is where it gets just freaking maddening. And this is where I honest to God genuinely believe that lefties who think the government should have ultimate control don't actually exist. I mean that in all honesty. I think there are fiscal government conservatives and those who don't know that they are fiscal government conservatives. Because everybody, short of just Marxists, even Marxists, should look at what I'm about to say from the New York Times and say, that cannot happen. That should not happen. Why is that happening? Some education experts who have closely monitored the relief said that the federal guidelines should have been more focused on addressing the learning loss. Although schools were initially slow to spend the money, oh shoot, I'm reading the wrong line. Wow, all of that buildup, then nothing. Where did it go? See, this is why I'm bad at this job. Well, the bottom line is, the department is yada, yada, yada. How did it get buried so far in this article? The bottom line is that there's no real good accounting for this. The bottom line is that there is no accountability when it comes to the school districts. And I can't now, I've got to read it in the thing. This is just unpreparedness. Oh, because I thought this was such a great line. Yeah, well, I screwed that up. So all of that buildup is to say that there's very little accounting for any of the money that went out to schools. Of that $122 billion, very, very little of it is actually trackable to what actually helped for students. The states, many of the states, didn't get any sort of reporting from the districts. They're just kind of using, I don't know, anecdotal evidence and some of the few districts that did report. But the bottom line is, and this is what everybody should be so concerned about if they are a taxpayer in the United States of America, there was almost no accounting for what that money did. Even if you're a communist, Marxist, socialist, crazy person, you should go, wait a minute, they have no idea what happened to any of that money? That seems like a problem. Yeah, because it is. I know that story probably shocked many of you. Many people are probably in utter shock of the government spending money and it just kind of vanishing into thin air. But we're in this together. We can be shocked and horrified together. Yeah, everybody could see that coming. You know what else we could have seen coming is what is going on to Walgreens in places like Chicago. Are you hip to this story? Walgreens opened up a couple new stores in the crazy town of Chicago, Chirac, some people call it, that no longer actually, you know what? I'm just going to let this video play. This is like 30 seconds long, not all that long, but it is fascinating what is going on in Chicago and what people apparently are putting up with. This is funny. Regarding the last story, Ryan says, when the school audit turns into a DOD audit. Yeah. Isn't it? The Pentagon has missed like the last 7 audits or something crazy like that. That's wild. Yeah, there's no accounting for any government money. Sorry, moving on to this though. Walgreens in Chicago have now opened, and the experience, the customer experience, is fascinating. Watch this.
A Walgreens store in downtown Chicago redesigns with only 2 aisles for browsing, requiring customers to order non-essential items through a counter or kiosk. There are mixed reviews from customers about the new approach, with some praising the convenience while others expressing disappointment in the lack of trust. A Walgreens spokesperson mentions testing new concepts. The redesign follows Walgreens CFO acknowledging potential exaggeration of shoplifting impact and the company's layoffs due to a net loss and opioid claims. A settlement was reached with San Francisco for contributing to the opioid epidemic.
So if you go into Walgreens, that's what it looks like. Let me bring that bigger up on the screen. You've got 2 aisles of like stuff, and the rest of everything is behind the counter. You know what I think is fascinating here? Why is it that companies in this woke world of Bud Light, Target, all of these companies voicing their opinion politically through ads, through merchandise, through all of these sorts of things, why is it that they're comfortable saying, we need to have transgender affirmative surgery for children? Why is that okay? But when it comes to having to lock down their stores to where nobody can buy anything, I mean, people can buy something, but you're punching it in on a kiosk. You might as well order it on Amazon. That's it. That's the same thing. Why are those stores not saying, exercising their political policy arm, saying, yeah, it's because a bunch of bums and junkies and thieves just ravage our stores. So it's either shut down or do this. There's really no other option. Why are they so able to get involved in the politics of pride, trans, whatever, but not willing or able to say, yeah, the crime policies in this city are insane, so this is why we're doing this. Instead, they have to veil this and we're giving customers a new experience at Walgreens. People go to Walgreens, wow, thank you for this experience that I could have had on my phone from my couch. Yeah, I don't know. Fascinating. Nobody's willing to say out loud in the world of Walgreens or in the Targets or even Walmart. Walmart's saying they're going to have to close several stores also. Nobody's willing to say that. How weird. And also, how and why is society putting up with this? Like, I'm just curious. Like, well, times change. Through thousands of years of being able to walk into a store, look around at all of the items, pick out what you need, go to the front, pay for those items. Thousands of years of people doing this. Now all of a sudden you can't because crime is running rampant and people are just saying, well, I guess this is just what happens. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Just seems bizarre. But this is just what it is. No! Like, why are people just putting up with that? In the same way of the New York Times article, why are taxpayers putting up with the fact that there's no accounting for any of the money that goes out to schools and government agencies? Why? And in the same level, why is everyone just like, what are you gonna do? I feel like people in various parts of America, most parts of America, are saying, this is actually happening? This is crazy. Yes, it is crazy. Such is the modern times that we live in. I'm still trying to find that one. There's one phrase in here in this article, in this New York Times article about the schools that I just thought was freaking interesting that they said that in. Oh, here we go. reverting back to this story that we did several minutes ago, because I did find the paragraph. National data on how the money has been spent. Well, I feel like I have to reset this now because there's several of you that just joined. If you missed it earlier, I had this big, long buildup saying that I don't believe that government power ultimatists, I don't even know if that, the people that think the government should have ultimate power, I don't think those people actually exist. I believe that there are conservatives and people who don't know that there are conservatives in terms of when it comes to government fiscal policy. And here's the sentence that I will bring to you, or the paragraph that I will bring to you after the fact, because I lost it because I'm bad at this job. This is from the New York Times. National data on how the money has been spent regarding schools and the money being sent to schools is scarce. Let me read that again. National data on how the money has been spent is scarce. The federal government does limited tracking on the relief funds, which were sent directly to states. Many states which dole out the money to districts did not provide detailed breakdowns of the expenditures. Everybody who pays taxes in this country should be pissed at that. No questions asked. It doesn't matter if you're a far-right extremist, which I guess categorizes everybody nowadays, or a Che Guevara Marxist. Everybody should be mad at that. Even if you're a Marxist, you probably have to have some sort of accountability, right, for government spending. But national data on how the money is spent in schools is scarce. Why do we, the taxpayer, put up with this? I don't know. Cornell West is running for president. You know who that is? Let's bring him on for a little bit. Cornell West is, in my opinion, a crazy person. But, I think just an ideologue. Also, standing invitation, as of right now, standing invitation to come on this show whenever you want, Dr. West. Let me play a little bit from him. But this is only interesting because more people, actually, no, he's not running as a Democrat. He's running in opposition to Joe Biden, but he's running as the People's Party of America. I don't know, whatever, new party. Watch a couple seconds of this, and then we'll move on.
In these bleak times, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter in the quest for truth. I enter in the quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life. I come from a...
Yeah, that's about it. It is very cool. I actually, I kind of like this announcement video. Could you imagine if a Republican did a video like this? One, in terms of trying to rally the base, I don't think the base would care. Like, if Ron DeSantis did, like, a cool video like this, I don't think the base would care. Well, it couldn't go any worse than his Twitter space, I'll tell you that right now. But I feel like it would, I don't know, it could get out to more and more people. Cornell West doesn't have any money to run for president. I don't think anybody takes him seriously as a candidate. A bunch of your mainstream medias are going to start taking him down because they don't want any opposition to Joe Biden, which is crazy to me. Especially this guy. This guy is like left of Bernie Sanders, endorsed Bernie Sanders, and whatever. Not a political threat whatsoever, but I wish more fiscal conservatives had kind of the flair of this guy. Like I like the music. I like the way it's cut. I like the shot. I like a lot of it. From a political product standpoint, I like a lot of it. I've been saying maybe I should actually reach out to the DeSantis campaign. I think DeSantis should hire me as an image consultant, just so that he kind of breaks out of his boxy built-in character. I don't know. Maybe that would help. But yeah, this guy's running for president. That's all we really need to know. It's just kind of, he's just doing it. But anyways, that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Also, we are putting out, and that's what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to go respond to the tons of messages. I don't know why I didn't have this idea to begin with, but so I do stand-up comedy. We do stand-up comedy shows all over the place. But yeah, been doing stand-up comedy for a while now, and we're booking a fall/winter tour. And it's difficult. We don't generally go to comedy venues. Comedy clubs are tough. Just because I'm not in that world, and I understand it. Like, there's no hard feelings. It's just people, kind of rise through the ranks there, and I totally get it. And outsiders coming in, not the most welcome, which is fine. But so anyways, we go do restaurants and bars and event spaces and all that sort of stuff. But anyways, in booking that tour, we are, it's difficult dealing with all the people that are involved in that sort of thing is sometimes tough. Where we should go, where we shouldn't go, and all that sort of stuff. So yesterday on Instagram and on this show too, I put out the challenge, I guess, of like, hey, where should we go? Where should we go? Well, and if if you have a city that like, hey, this would be a good city to go to, any restaurants and bars that you would know that would be willing to host a freedom-loving stand-up comedy show. And if so, shoot me a message. Probably on Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me, but I do check the Facebook messages and the Twitter messages. So if you have any interest in, giving me some suggestions of places where we should go and kind of takes the suits out of it, would love to hear your suggestions from you. Send it along on social media. Just you can message my page too on Facebook. So if you have any thoughts, and if you're also like a member of your Republican Party in your county and want to partner that way, that would be great too. Figured, it's just easier to go directly to the folks. But you can do that. Let me know if you have any fun suggestions for me. Let's see. That'll do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. And we'll get into some of this weird pride stuff going on in schools. A lot of video has been floating around that we need to get to. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.